Today, I have a special guest who is here to share. We're actually going to have a very interactive conversation. We're going to be chatting. It's not an interview because we're both sharing our stories, right? So we've got our guest here. Her name is Wadzanani. She's a very accomplished Zimbabwean superstar woman. Yes, I look up to her. From her story, we're going to learn the humanity in all of us, that we all go through stuff, and that sometimes when you're on the outside looking in, it always seems rosy, or it seems like we're too much, but you don't know what's going on the inside. So Wadzi, welcome, and I'm super excited to have you here to share your story. Maybe you can tell us a little about yourself, and then we can, just kick into our girl chat.
Perfect, love. So, who am I? Wow. I am a girl child who grew up in Zimbabwe. I did all my primary and secondary education in Zimbabwe. And then post-independence, because I was the crossover generation, and I've written a book about it. Yeah. Oh, Township Girls, the crossover generation, 31 authors. We're actually serializing the book right now on Classic 263 every Thursday at 9:30 for 30 minutes. So it's great. So we wrote this book called Township Girls to discuss how we crossed over. And I think a lot of my journey reflects living in two worlds, in the sense that I'm the original Munoz. Yeah, I don't know, the word has now kind of, evolved into Masalad and Masalala and all sorts of things. But I am one of the first to go to multiracial schools. I was the only Black child in an all-white school. I come from parents who are civil servants, who wanted the best for their girls. And, my parents then ended up traveling the world. My dad became an ambassador. So I have a lot of experience. I'm a global citizen. And right now I'm sitting in Italy as a global citizen. So, that's who I am. I am a mother of two beautiful young adults, one who is 27 and a farmer, an agropreneur, as he calls himself, in Marondera, and a daughter who is at college. She's at uni in Utrecht in the Netherlands. So I am multifaceted. I am not just as what's that Nigerian author called? She said, "You're not a single story, right? You are a multiplicity of stories. So we can't look at the single story." So I think, Janet, the reason I was so drawn, I literally got, was it somebody sent me the message, right? Like, for anyone who wants to write about, postpartum, depression, whatever, just email this, right? It just dropped into my inbox. And I don't know who sent it. I really should find out who sent it to me. They were,
know each other like this. We had interfaced on different platforms, but I'm so happy to be here, and happy here.
So I emailed, we talked, and here we are having a conversation. Yeah. I love it. And we vibe, I was like the other day, she's my spirit animal. That's the child I was. That's it. Yeah, so I was so looking forward to this conversation today, because I had a therapy session this afternoon, right? And I was really reflecting on how much we go through being taught to be perfect, right?
And strong.
I told somebody, if somebody calls me a strong Black woman again, I'm going to just box them. I'm going to just I don't want to be the strong Black woman. I'm sick and tired of being the strong Black woman. Yeah. So my journey of reflection was just that being an elder child, right? Mm-hmm. Perfection, you're always the gold standard, right? a lot of pressure is put on the firstborn, and we know that there's a whole lot of studies done on firstborn children, etc. But there's this gold standard if you're a girl, right? And especially, I think, our generation, and I mean the generation that was born in the crossover, because our parents were, even if they didn't want it or didn't want to be, they were revolutionaries, right? They were like, our children must do better by us. We're going to, do better by. So it was not just a gold standard, it was a triple gold standard, right? It was like, we're putting you into very unsafe spaces. I mean, imagine putting from the age of 6, 5 turning 6, I was like launched into white spaces, right? So I would go from the township into white spaces, right? So how much more unsafe? Can you imagine the fight or flight impulse that's in my body? Just, just like every day. Mm-hmm. So you go through this and you learn to adapt. But in all of this, there's also that narrative, that narrative, the customary narrative. Mwanaskana Mwanaskana must be able to polish the floor. I remember my mother, I used to hate it, Janet. When my mom was a nurse. And then she would take August holidays off, right? And I hated August holidays. It's my birthday month, but I hated it because this was the time that she would wake us up at 5 a.m. to teach us to put polish on the floor. And she's a nurse, so corners had to be exact. And there were no duvets and duvet covers. When it was blankets and sheets and eider-downs, no bedspread.
I completely relate because you and I somewhat have the same history, also well-traveled. My dad was in embassies. He was a civil servant as well. He was in embassies and things like that. But, you went into the white spaces, right? I grew up in the white spaces, and then I came back to Zimbabwe and went into the all black spaces. So it was like major culture shift. And I get what you're saying about the push and the pull in relation to tradition versus being modern. We want to be modern, we want to set trends, we want to do all of this, but at the same time, I want you so
used to say to my parents, I remember, Janet, the worst one was when I was getting married, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, at first I didn't even know I was getting married. Let's just put that one out there, right? My hubby literally, we ran away to Mozambique and lived together for a year because how culturally in Zimbabwe, you're the daughter of, etc., etc. So we ran away to Mozambique, and I had said to him, I'm not going to marry anybody without living with them, right? So we lived together for a year. And he had asked me before, I had started to see the tetes and everything. And then I had said to him, Sha, we need to live together before I marry anybody, right? And he literally just in passing, when you're having these conversations, right? You're married now, but you were boyfriend and girlfriend. It's one of those conversations like, don't you think, would you still marry me? Just like that. Just, would you still marry me? And you say, yeah, I think you're okay. Mm-hmm. He went and organized a whole Rora ceremony, Janet. I knew nothing about it. I'm in Maputo. I call home, and my sister says to me, Ndakunongera mari. I was like, huh? Marie, first of all, it was because my mind wasn't with marriage, right? It wasn't anywhere in that space. Marie. And she says, and I was like, hold on, wait a minute, what? And then he comes on the phone and he says, yeah, but I asked you, I was like, this is the difference between the like modern, where somebody's supposed to get on one knee with a ring and whatever, This nigga literally said, would you still marry me? went off and did a Aurora ceremony. I'm still like, but where's my ring? Where's the flowers, the romantic music, Luther Vandross singing, like,
Right after this, that's when you discover where you're expecting, right?
I discover I'm expecting, Janet. And, I'm HIV positive. So in 1992, I found out that I was HIV positive. And I found out like by chance. Again, I always say to people, I was minding my own business, just getting on with life, So my best friend was selling insurance. And she said, I'd love to sell you a life policy, in Old Mutual, all you need is a blood test. I mean, I was in my early 20s, Janet. I was like 22, 23 at most. Go off, they take a prick, you go to the clinic. No, nobody spoke to nobody. HIV was there. People were talking about it. We were burying people, but it had not impacted my life.
Yeah.
Right? I come back for the insurance result. I'm here to sign some papers. I'm with my then boyfriend who became my husband, who is now my ex-husband. And I'm told, you're HIV positive. We can't sell you insurance. Yeah. I see your face. You're like, huh? That's exact. I'm like, hold on. What? Like, how you walk into something expecting, like, not even, I had no expectation. I mean, I have a piece of paper. I need to sign a paper. I need to go back to work. I've got a life. I'm HIV positive. And there was no counseling. There was no nothing. And it was a death sentence, It was like literally people were dying. We were burying them. 1 in 4 Zimbabweans. The statistics were there. It was called the slimming disease. You could see people literally getting sick. Oh, I ordered, I mean, it's, and then the short illness. Everybody was dying of a short illness, and then somebody would be dead. So, and luckily my ex was wonderful then, and he said, Wadzanani is going to die at some stage. If you must die, then you must live, right? And that became my mantra. If I'm going to die, then I must live. So I get married in 1993, December, and discover I'm pregnant. So all this time I'd been living my best life. There was not even, how, as I'm saying, life just happens to you. We were not trying to get pregnant. I mean, I wasn't even trying to get married. I was just living my best life in sin, as it would be said, having the time of my life, playing happy families, mahumbwe, as it were. And next thing I know, not only am I married, right? Traditionally, I'm pregnant. Then my mother, of course, religion strikes back yeah, I know we are not having this child out of wedlock. No child of mine, Diwemkuru, you're the eldest. We need you to set the example. If you don't get married properly, your sisters won't get married. So I went from December. So just look at how this is a bullet, right? Mm-hmm. December, traditional wedding. April, wedding. Okay. My wedding was arranged in 3 months by my parents. The wedding was...
You're still living in Mozambique?
Still living in Mozambique, right? Yeah. And in Mozambique, pregnancy, it was post, it was 1994, so it was post Frelimo conflict, right? So this is a post-conflict area. So forget sort of health services, mm-hmm. Forget clinics, this is a country in reconstruction, right?
Yeah.
So, and pregnancy is not the sort of thing that you can have complications. Women are giving birth. Why are you even stressful, right? Mm. What makes you exceptional? Just go with your pregnancy. Come when you need to give birth, and we'll deal with it. Come to the clinic. So I got the clinic card, the card, because it was all public health. So you get a card, come for your checkup. They don't even listen, maybe a stethoscope every now and again, and that's it. And, I didn't even go for the regular checkups because I knew there's really no public health. And I would just be taking up resources of somebody who was probably needs it better than me. So I get home for the wedding, and my mother arranged the wedding. I had nothing to do. This is the fairy tale wedding, guys. This is how you should do weddings. My mother did everything, arranged the dress, the color scheme, the flowers, the venue, 500 guests, of which my ex and I had 10 invites. The rest were my parents' friends. And as we're getting, I got home 2 weeks before the wedding, right? And as I get home, I was doing the hairstyle for the wedding. You know, you do a trial. So I was in the dryer, getting my hair done. This is the pre-wedding. Let's try out the hairstyle thing. And I fainted. So let's go Nemwana to hospital. We get there. I have preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is quite a what's the word? It kills a lot of women, actually. It's really quite dangerous. It's usually protein in it shows up as protein in your urine. Okay. I had the edema, the swollen legs and everything. So in not being a medical person, I did not panic at all. You know, my mother, who's a medical person, let's put your feet up, just rest and everything. This is 2 weeks to the wedding, mind you. Yeah. So I need to be camera ready and I need to be okay. So I'm everything's happening. My son was relaxed. Janet, you have never met a baby so relaxed. That child was not kicking. He was in heaven. He was like, this stomach, I love being here. There's no need for me to do anything. I didn't even know. So every week we had to go for fetal heart monitoring and everything. Yeah. This boy would flip once in a while. You'd feel flutters, like he'd kick a little, like he was so contained and content, Yeah. And so the doctors were panicking. My mom was panicking, the preeclampsia. We have the wedding. It was gorgeous. And then my father-in-law said, Mrora Mnyuan, Tumtoko. So Tumtoko, we were going to stay with my father-in-law, right? Unfortunately, there's a lot of dust in Mutoko, and I have a serious allergy to dust. So I was hiccuping and sneezing and, and I had to go every week for these fetal monitoring and, all this stuff. So he's like, I'll give you a house in Harare. I've got a house in Harare. So we moved to Harare. So all of this is happening. And then baby is born. Baby is born. I go kunosungirwa to mama and daddy. I'm at my parents' house. This child was a crier. I was breastfeeding. And I think, okay, let me start off with the pregnancy was fine. I mean, I felt weird, but I didn't know how else you're supposed to feel when you're pregnant, right? Yeah. So I just felt like, and everybody has a different pregnancy story. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I didn't think I was ill. I just thought I'm pregnant, I get tired, my feet swell, but I'd seen other pregnant women like this happen. So, hey, I'm not special.
But then I want to find out, like you mentioned being HIV positive. What did that have? What kind of effect did that have on your headspace? How did you feel about it? Like being pregnant and you're HIV positive. Did you have questions about what it meant for the baby and things like that? What did it do for your emotions and your headspace?
I think the biggest thing is because I had not told my mother and my father at that point that I was HIV positive. So because of the stigma, and I don't even remember if I told the clinician or anybody. It was just one of those things that, how you literally make a deal with God every night. Like, I'll be good. Please, can my baby be born HIV negative? I'll be so good. I'll do everything, I don't, you have this sense of impending doom, right? And remember that this is 94. This is not when we have ARVs. This is when the whole discussion about, do you bath in Dettol? Do you not bath in Dettol? All this stuff. So I had managed my HIV with nutrition. I've always been very conscious about what I eat. And I've always like been all about organic, but coming from Zim, we grow our own food, right? So I've never been, and having been to the States where I did my my university degree, right? The States was all about fast food, and I never liked it. I never liked the food in the States. So coming back home, it was like everything was organic. I mean, it's very difficult. You don't even eat out at home. This was 94, guys, right?
Yeah.
With mangoes, chicken in, going, you'd go to a restaurant, you'd go to Coimbra, right? And again, it's really nice Portuguese chicken, so it's all organic, right? And so I managed a lot with nutrition. And so it was at the back of my mind, but also my mom, I come from a home where medicine is something that's discussed all the time. So I knew that if I kept basic hygiene, so I was I've always been uber careful about, I'm one of those people that bleaches surfaces a lot, just because I lived in Mozambique, because, I put bleach in my dishes. I just put bleach everywhere. And I have dogs and cats. Right now I've got 2 dogs and 2 cats. So, and my cats are always like, and my son was born with kittens and all sorts of things. So bleach has been a part of our lives all the time. So I think the narrative in the back, it never goes away, right? And remember that for me, HIV was still a death sentence, right? So every single time, if I got even slightly ill, I'd be like, is this it? Is my immune system going to go down? Am I just going to get some infection? So you're uber careful about, I stopped going to funerals. I became kind of like the entitled, and it was because I couldn't get opportunistic infections, right? Yeah. So I would go kunobata maoko, so I'd go to pay my respects and do that, but I would stay away from large gatherings because, TB. You know how, have you ever seen women in a setting like when they're sitting at a gathering for a funeral? They're passing around pills to each other. They're sniffling. They're just, one time we were kumusha, right, and burying someone, and one of my aunts said, I forgot my pills at BP, and this woman just hands her pills like, yeah, have some. I'm like, do you even know the name of the brand of your? Aywa, it's also an Piris, No, it doesn't work like that. So I was uber careful about my spaces. I was uber careful, but because I'd always been a little different, right? Because I'd always been the child that went to white schools, people they didn't think it was out of the ordinary. It was just Wadzi being Wadzi, right? Wadzaka never runguka. To this day, that's what people say. Wadzaka never rungu. Wadzi and her Caucasians. It's just, no, poor thing, Wadzi, she's just a little strange. So nobody actually realized that this was my protection. But this ongoing narrative, Janet, was at the back of my head, like,
yeah.
What will happen when this child is born? Will he have failure to thrive? Because that was the big thing about HIV. Your son or daughter would be born and then they failed to thrive and then they died. So there was a lot of infant mortality because of the HIV virus. So these were all, it's a dialogue in your head. It's a dialogue with my ex-husband. And he's just like, what he will, he's the type that's like, can we not catastrophize, please? Until it's happening to him, of course. If it's happening to you, can we not catastrophize, please? Let's deal with that when that happens. That sort of, so it's very good to have a person like that because it's kind of like, If it happens, then we'll deal with it, right? And let's not obsess about it. Yeah.
No, it hasn't happened. So let's just
let's just chill, right? So my son, being my son, I told you, very, very comfortable in his stomach, doing his own thing, barely flickering, barely kicking. He breaks waters on a Friday, like waters break. My mom, who's a nurse, because now I was in Maronjera with my parents, right? I've come from Harare, I've gone to Maronjera with my parents. Waters break on Friday. My mom's like, okay, we're driving, we're going to Parenyatwa, we're going into hospital. As soon as waters break, you need to go. My son chilled for another 2 days, Janet. Chilled. Dude went from breaking waters to nothing, to a few contractions every now and again, like, hello, you contract, stop. I'm in hospital right now. On Sunday, my mother checks me out. We go to lunch with my aunt in Mount Pleasant, my mother's sister. We come back. I'm sitting there. There's a little bit of contraction, a little bit of, pain. Come back to hospital, nothing. Yeah. Sunday night, I go to sleep. I have an enema. I told you about the enema the other day. It's the best thing. Oh my God. If you've never had an enema, you must have an enema.
No, they never did one on me.
Oh my God, it clears your system. It's like relief. And I was having now contractions. When you have the enema and the contractions are coming, it's like everything is relieved. And the thing about a first pregnancy is, I could hear other women screaming in the other rooms, right? This is Parenyatwa maternity ward. I have such a high threshold for pain that I didn't even realize. I kept expecting it to get worse. You know how you're sitting there going, oh, it's coming, but it should get worse. People tell me that it's. My son Monday morning starts rake slowly and then goes nya again. But now he started pushing, right? He's coming out. Okay. So they give me the injection to speed up contractions. That was painful. That was pain. Can I just say that is the most pain I have ever felt? So finally, this man comes out, ears and shoulders. I have told him all the time, those shoulders, I will never forget the ears and the shoulders. I felt them coming out. Comes out. He's traumatized, my poor baby. Ears and shoulders, oil out, right? And they thrust him onto your breast, Janet. They didn't, how in movies, the babies come swaddled, this mass of blood was just Hansi Bond, nipple, I'd never breastfed, right? I've never had a baby. This is my first. You're being told, just give him your breast, cuddle.
No, talk about that crazy feeling. Like breastfeeding for me was like, dude, you haven't even asked me out yet. How can you're already getting this up close and intimate? What's my name? Do you even know?
Exactly. And I'm like, and this, and I'm bleeding, and it's just, I've never been able to deal with blood. In Idishango, I could never have been a doctor. I just can't do, every period for me was a nightmare. I just don't know how to deal with blood. And so, this child comes. This child.
Yucky.
No, it's yucky. It's come out of your neck, the regions. Hello. I don't even want to think about it. My sister was there. She was wonderful. She loves this sort of thing. She should have been a doctor. She watched that child come out. She was there. She was part of this process of the boob. She was washing the child. She was so excited. I was just like, whatever. Get me out of here. Father of the child came in at some point, fainted. Doctor was like, please take that man out of here. We can't have. I can't have two patients at the same time. So this child is born, we go back. My son was not getting full from breast milk, right? We're breastfeeding. And at that point, the exclusive breastfeeding debate versus the bottle feeding debate was just starting.
Okay. Yeah.
It was just starting. Because the science was evolving. The same way that the COVID science is evolving was, new, they test new things and whatever. So my mother, who does not believe in children suffering or crying, was like, "Chitomba porridge, ask good." So my dad went and bought formula. And my parents, they don't consider the fact that we're a young couple and we're broke. They go and buy the high end, like whatever formula it was, right? The one that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, just buy lactogen or something. No, the Mzukuru Wedu has got to have the best, So he started on formula. So he was doing breast milk formula and we were adding porridge. Now this baby was colicky. He would cry. And so I go back after I think a few weeks. I go back to my marital home, which was the one our father-in-law had given us. So we're living there, and my son would cry, and I was alone. I had no help. I'm trying to do it alone. You're a first mother. You're trying to make everything perfect. Honestly, I now realize I was in postpartum depression. And I think a lot of it had to do with the HIV and the fear, because I was even afraid to take him to be tested.
Yeah.
So this fear, and I used to constantly watch him. If he's sleeping, if he finally got to sleep, I would watch him. And, each time I went for the weighing, you go for these periodic weighings for the baby, when you go for the not the depot, what's it called? The BCG. The injections and the vaccinations, etc. And they'd be like, "Oh, he's growing so well." If he even lost a little bit, like 500, how babies, they lose weight and then they put it on.
Yeah.
For me, that was catastrophic. Like, here it is. Failure to thrive is right here. This is it. It's my baby is just gonna. So this narrative is in the back of your head the whole time. So I think I did have postpartum depression because of that. Plus this screaming child who is colicky, clingy. I'm breastfeeding. I didn't even have a breast pump at that time, and I'm bottle feeding, etc. And so I just one day picked up the phone and I said, "Mom, if you don't bring me somebody, if you don't help me, I'm going to kill this child. Yeah. I just cannot do it." I'm just, so my mom rushed over, found me a CC, an auntie to help me. And, but I just remember being fearful, just being, I never felt like, okay, I don't remember it being a pleasant experience, right? I don't remember the movie version of motherhood, right? Where I would spend pleasant days and I've got my baby. And I just remember wailing. I remember handing him from auntie to auntie, trying to keep him quiet. I remember just not being extremely tired. I remember just this feeling of just being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Right. And of course, as time went on, you learn to cope. But as a new mother, as you know, Janet, you're trying to you want perfection, as you said. You want, my napkin. And we didn't have Pampers at that point, right? If Pampers existed in Zim, they were so expensive. And we were a young couple, right? So you are not going to buy, we had cloth nappies, which had to be washed. So you're dipping them in buckets and washing them.
And they have to be white. Yes. It's not proper. No, they had to remain white.
Yeah. The whole time. Exactly. The whole time. So you have this standard, right, of my napkin. You have your life. You are trying to get better. Luckily, I had a natural birth and I just had a few stitches. So it wasn't that bad. But I have this like weight of HIV, failure to thrive. This is the narrative that's going in. And I don't think I even got him tested until he was about 2 years old, you know, like just because I was so afraid to find out, especially when he was doing well. And, you know, when we went back to Mozambique, there's no healthcare, right? So he's running around we lived by the beach. This child was naked half his life. He was having the time of his life. Nice naked child. So
Naked child.
happy. You know, we brought him to Zimbabwe in I think it was 1996. And my father was horrified. My father was like, well, no, what's happening? Just a happy naked child. And so, you know, we're just living, and he's growing, and I then decided, we both decided, okay, we've had one miracle, right? That's it. No more children. We're done. We just, this was a miracle child, thriving, everything's fine. No children.